We begin once again in the end of times. Welcome back everyone to the Two-Headed Wolf Gaming last Epoch and our Sentinel to Void Knight run. We're gonna be picking the mastery. I still have a bit of farming to do. But this should be a major change in the power level at the moment. We pick Void Knight, a fallen knight who has taken part of the void inside themselves and uses it to devastate their foes, even at the cost of their own life. Does that mean we'll start sacrificing life for damage? Going to be interesting to see. Passive bonuses: 75% increase melee void damage. Your melee attacks, throwing attacks, and void spells have 10% chance to be repeated by an echo 0.5 seconds later. Excludes movement abilities and anomalies. Anomaly. Curious what that is. And we unlock a skill, but we will read through it as soon as we are back. So I'll see you in a second. Farming session is over. I am now at level 20 and I'm looking forward to making some big changes to our build. We have a lot of passive skill points that we can spend, active skills to upgrade, and also some equipment to throw in. Now there's nothing too special here, some extra resistances here and there, some extra potion, extra Void Knight damage as you might expect, armor, health regeneration, all of that. Nothing over the top. This one was a bit more interesting because it had 17% endurance while channeling Warpath, so it's making us more tanky, something which is very specific here. Definitely a skill to use. And also I'll throw in the helmet, which we already know from the last run, Sentinel to Paladin. It's better than what I have at the moment. I didn't find a better helmet, so we're gonna use this one instead. Other than that, there's nothing to talk about the equipment about, but I can throw it here in the forge. There's some potential left here to forge something else on it, and I'm going to increase the critical strike chance there. And I guess I could probably get a bit more void damage on it. There's still a lot of forging potential. We got lucky with the rolls here, but we'll leave it at that for now. I think I want more critical strike if I ever get around to doing that. So there we have it. Then let's move on to our passive skill points. And at this moment, I want us to maximize this one. I want us to get some extra points of vitality because we know that this one also transforms into damage, into void damage from our, was it Rive? Rive. So I am going to invest here in Fearless, get that health regeneration up as well. We got here, we need to be spending 5 more points in order to get to the Void Knight Mastery. We need to spend 20 points in the Sentinel overall in order to unlock the next 3. So over here I am going to take some health gain and some mana. We're using both mana and health, so we're gonna do this. I'm not gonna spend anything going further, that's good enough for now. Over on this side we have unlocked a few new skills. We have Abyssal Endurance, where we get 8 health per point invested and 4% resistance to both void and physical, which is pretty good. Or we could invest in Temporal Corruption. Your spells and attack deal additional void damage and Smite's base damage is converted to void. So the Smite ability, we can actually turn it into the dark side, right? Ignite chance from all sources is converted to slow chance for Smite, and effects from Smite 3 that depend on Ignite depend on slow instead. Smite can no longer provide healing. An interesting idea. I don't know about it. I'll probably have to experiment with the build. Not something that I wanted to bother with today. Or we could go with Devouring Blade, where we deal increased damage if we have killed an enemy recently. 10% per point. So for right now, I am thinking that I'm actually going to be investing 2 points here and 3 points down here. We unlocked a new skill, we're gonna take a look at it in a moment, and we've unlocked new passives, but we are going to look at them when we have a point to spend. So let's get to the active skills. We have quite a few here. Void Cleave, something we've seen in the last run as well because it's part of the Sentinel. It's a two-handed weapon attack with an axe or a sword, a melee attack that hits all enemies in an area in front of you. can be echoed by Void Knights and unaffected by weapon range. This attack looks like this. It's a really nice slash. You've seen the Void echo there happening, doing a double attack. It's a nice skill. It doesn't do a huge amount of damage. I mean, we're doing 427 with Rive, and I am doing 305 here with Void Cleave. Except for the area of effect, I didn't really get the point of this one being a main attack or even a secondary attack, but we might do something with it in a second. I also have this one, Erasing Strike, a melee attack that hits all enemies in a large area in front of you. Enemies killed by the hit are erased from existence, replaced by Void Reefs. This one is actually pretty good. It's quite a powerful attack, 967 damage. It has a mana cost of 30, which is slightly high. However, killing enemy has a chance to make them be replaced by Void Reefs, which also damages enemies. I feel like this attack is really good, so that has been impressive. And other than that, I've been using Warpath a lot, but I feel at this point that it has become a crutch. Basically, I've been using it a lot, and I don't want to make a build around this because it feels like something I played before, like in Diablo or in Path of Exile. So, not the most excited to do a build around that. And thus, even though I could upgrade it and make it do more crazy things, I believe that what I'll do here is that I'll respec and actually despecialized from this skill. And what I'm going to do might be a bit different and weird, but let's take a look here at Volatile Reversal as well. This one returns us to the position where we were 2 seconds ago, reverting changes to your current health and mana since then. This one is actually pretty good. So you constantly kill enemies, and then you can reverse time, just teleporting you back to where you were 2 seconds ago, giving back your health and mana. It's sort of a get out of a hairy situation type of skill, but the enemies don't come back. It's not full-time revolt. So it seems like an interesting skill. Not gonna play with it for now. What I want to do here is that I will specialize in Void Cleave, and I will also specialize in this Erasing Strike. And we're gonna take them in order. Let's go from left to right. We'll start with Rive because we know what we have done already. We're gonna throw a point here in Weapon Specialist, providing void damage per vitality with an axe +1. Can you imagine I've played without this for about what, 10 levels, something like that? Temporal Warrior. Rive deals more void damage and your chance to echo with Rive is double. So we're gonna throw this, and then we get Ripples of Oblivion, bonus triple for echoes, bonus damage basically, the 5%. We're gonna get that. And then I'm going to go here to the right. Outburst. Rive's third strike deals damage in a larger area. Since we are not gonna use Warpath anymore, I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to get more area of effect, thus helping us clear more. Then we're gonna go here to Void Cleave. Void Cleave has many different modifiers which seem interesting to me, but one of the crazy things that I want to do is go here. Gravity's Edge. You can travel much further with Void Cleave, but it has a longer cooldown and now counts as a traversal skill. So it increases maximum distance by 275% and increases cooldown duration by 1 second. I want to replace Lunge with this, with Void Cleave. So I'm gonna go with Into the Depths. Void Cleave deals more damage and in an increased area. We're gonna invest 1 point there. We need to invest 3 points here in Abyssal Walker. You can travel further with Void Cleave and it deals more damage. We have to invest 3 points here, which gives us a maximum distance of 30% and damage of 30%. And then we're gonna go here to Erasing Strike. Now we'll have to keep upgrading this. We're gonna get some XP boost, which is going to help us a lot. But going to Erasing Strike, this one is a bit more complicated. We can increase the area of effect and Void Rift area as well for the enemies that remain behind. And I'm thinking that I should be investing at least 1 point here and definitely 1 point on this side. where we get Obliteration. Erasing strikes and the spell it triggers deal additional void damage. This bonus is doubled while wielding a two-handed weapon, and because we're wielding a two-handed weapon, we're gonna get, I guess in this situation, 12 melee void damage and 12 spell void damage. So we're gonna invest 1 point into that. And then I'm going to go to Ruthless. Erasing Strike deals more damage to enemies at full health. That sounds pretty good because it's 225% more damage. And we are doing damage to enemies at full health generally. I use this on mobs more than anything else. And then we're gonna get Erasure of the Living. Erasing Strikes deal more damage and instantly kill enemies that are below a certain threshold. 2% is the threshold. That's not gonna happen too often. But the reason why I'm investing in this direction is because I want to go in this to the right, towards Void Pyre. When Erasing Strike kills an enemy, you have a chance to cast Void Beam at their location, a spell that continuously damages surrounding enemies for 3 seconds. Sounds pretty interesting as a skill, so we'll do that. At the moment, I'll replace this here. So we're gonna throw Void Cleave on this side. We're gonna have Erasing Strike over here. I am going to go with Volatile Reversal just as the panic button. And I am going to throw Rebuke in the last slot, just to have sort of a defensible skill. Let's look at the modifiers. We're not moving that much. But we will need to transform this in a traversal skill in order to actually use it to the full potential that we have decided to do. And we're gonna test our power here on a boss battle. I should have started there with this one, with Erasing Strike. As you can see, we're doing a lot of damage. Void Knight has been very interesting as a class. At first, and this might be because of the videos which I've seen, at first I had the feeling that this class is going to be a two-handed warrior and that's about it. I feel like this might be the most uninteresting class that the Sentinel has to offer, and that is not the case. I mean, you are not just doing void damage, you are not just some evil knight and that's it. Apparently my mic bugged out and there was no voice in the video after the last boss fight. And so, this is later in the day, I'm doing like sort of a voiceover commentary. I've rested for a bit, made myself a nice cup of coffee, and I decided to sit down with the video and share some of the things that are happening, some of the things which I was talking about back then. It's not gonna be in perfect sync, but I'm going to do my best to do a commentary here. I was definitely on the lower side of energy in the beginning, because I ended yesterday's run with the Paladin on such a hype that today when I created a brand new Sentinel and I was going slower through the game, it definitely knocked some wins out of the sails. Plus, the class didn't seem to come together in any direction until I picked up the Void Knight Mastery, at which point I looked through some skills and I'm starting to feel the hype once more. And I was saying just before the mic bugged out that the developers have made a really cool move here. They've displayed such creativity in taking one of the main themes of this game, right, the voids and the time travel, and they put it together in a mastery and gave it to a melee warrior. And it's not just a dark knight that does the same type of skills but in purple, right? It's not just visual. They've actually thrown in a lot of mechanics which are unique, I guess so far, because I haven't played the other classes. But you have all of these echoes which double your attack. You travel back in time to recover your mana and recover the health that you've gained. You have void echoes, a lot of mechanics which could be very powerful if played right. It's definitely a class to master. And we have leveled up over here. We've obtained a new passive skill points, but we also have new skills which we have just unlocked. We have World Eater, where we leech a portion of our melee and void damage as health. It's 1% per point. Sounds pretty good. We also have Sorrow and Steel, where we increase physical and void damage by 7% per point. That's really strong. We can invest 10 points. That's 70%. Definitely something I want to invest in. But to begin with, I'm going to get some leech or health. We do a lot of melee damage. We do a lot of void damage. So I decided to go with a point here just to increase that survivability. At this moment, at this point of the game, I can definitely tell the big differences between how tanky the paladin was yesterday. We had the shield, which blocked a lot of the damage that was coming in. We had a lot of skills which we also used as healing. There was the auras, which provided us with resistances and extra damage, helping us in clearing the area, and so on and so forth. Like, there were plenty of skills which helped with survivability. Unlike this two-handed warrior, we are feeling a whole lot squishier. However, we do have huge damage potential there. If you look on the screen every once in a while, you'll see this crit that we're doing with 2000 damage, which is absolutely madness. We are taking enemies left and right in one hit. Our normal attack is at 1000 damage. You can see there at 1300 we have the erasing strike. However, with a crit we are going at 2000. And I was looking now whether we could reduce cooldown, and I found this skill which has no cooldown. So we can constantly do these erasing strikes at 2000 damage on crit or 1000 damage without the crit. And I now thought, well, it consumes 30 mana. Can I reduce the mana cost? And unfortunately, that is not something that happens. We have a few skills here where we get an extra charge, but we use more mana. We have Champion of the Void, which will give us 1 mana per crit, per point invested, to a maximum of 4. 4 mana, getting 4 mana on crit. On one hand, you can say it's not that impressive, right? We do a critical strike and we are getting 4 mana back. That's not impressive. Until you remember that erasing strike has an area of effect. So depending on how many enemies you crit, you can get yourself a lot of mana back. So that can help you in turning this into a very strong character. One character which doesn't attack all the time, but what it does when it hits, it does a lot of damage. It kills enemies left and right. So what you could do, and even on the cooldown, even on the mana regeneration that I have right now, it takes about 4 to 5 seconds to fully regenerate an attack, get 30 mana. So you can think about it like this. You are moving around, gathering them up, doing a huge damage attack, pretty much wiping out most of them, and hopefully all of them. Then you're moving around once again, avoiding attacks, gathering mobs, you do another erasing strike, and so on and so forth. You could make definitely a build that feels slightly slower, maybe a bit more vulnerable, but you can make something that is really impressive, and definitely you could make a build out of it, right? That in comparison, the cleave is working quite well. We're doing some good damage with it as well. Definitely want to improve it and turn it into a traversal skill, and I think that happens right about now. So we're going here into Void Cleave, and we're picking Gravity's Edge, turning our cleave into a movement skill. For now, we're putting points even further into Erasure of the Living, increasing our damage by 10% and the kill threshold by 2%. But the most important thing is, look at the cleave ability now. That right there is a traversal skill. That increase in the range that it applies at has turned this skill into something that is very useful. I mean, at first, when it wasn't modified, I really didn't like it. I didn't see the point of it. But now that I've seen these modifiers, I can definitely appreciate it for what it has to offer. There is definitely a Void Knight run that I want to do somewhere. It's somewhere inside my head, or maybe another class run where I take Void Cleave and I try to invest in some of the points that do fire damage, ignite. I want to see how it modifies and how useful it is in that direction instead of a traversal skill. But for now, for this run, for this build, I enjoyed the fact that this cleave is actually now helping us move, because it also does quite a bit of damage. I think it's around 1000. Let's watch now. couldn't spot it. I'm still trying to figure it out. About 600 to 700 damage. That is actually good. And I felt like at this moment, once Cleave turned into this traversal skill, it's at this moment that I started feeling like a build idea is coming together. Like this character has found its glue to bring all the void damage and multipliers together. And I'm starting to get a bit more excited about what's to come next. We've unlocked a new passive skill points, and of course we're going to invest it in Sorrow and Steel, getting 7% more melee damage and 7% more void damage. And this is going to keep scaling up. I'm going to keep investing in that particular, what do I call it, points? Passive skill? Passive skill, I think is the right way to put it. It's around this point that I came to a realization. Do you remember the Vengeance skill and the Void Essence bonuses that it provided us? That potentially 45% increased void damage, 45% increased melee damage, and 30% reduced stun duration? Well, I came to the realization that I haven't really seen this node on the other skills which I've picked, at least nowhere close by that I would go for it immediately. It's a huge bonus that I'm missing on right now. So I started looking around and using this search button to figure out where could I get this extra damage. And unfortunately, Void Cleave does not have it. Fortunately, Erasing Strike does, where we could get a Void Essence on crit. 34% chance per point, which is pretty good. We could invest 3 points, which means that we would be at 102% chance to get Void Essence on crit. That sounds pretty good to me, but we will have to pretty much go to the top right rather than continue on our path south. Still, that is a huge bonus. It's something that I want to invest in, and so that's what we'll do. But it's very weird to me right now, or it's not necessarily weird, but all of a sudden I am putting Vengeance on some of the top starting skills. I am not as happy with Rive. I'm looking now to see if Rive has Void Essence, and it does not. So we are missing a huge bonus, and we are missing on an easy way to get that bonus. Even though it doesn't have a 100% chance to generate Void Essence whenever we repost or when we attack an enemy, when we kill an enemy with our Vengeance skill, it's still a pretty good chance. What was it? 20%, I believe we calculated it at some point. Something like that. We've gained 2 more skill points from this quest, and so I have invested the 2 points in getting 14% extra void damage and physical damage. And we keep increasing the attack on this character. It's definitely a very powerful class to play. I'm not sure exactly how you'd build around a one-handed weapon rather than going two hands. Seems like there's plenty of bonuses which focus around two-handed weapon. Might be intended. I mean, I'm guessing everything is intended at this point. It has been in full development. But as we're heading back through time, at this point I am starting to be slightly unhappy with Rive. Just up to this point. I am thinking Vengeance would definitely have worked better. The damage amount that we are doing with Rive, even when we are doing a triple attack, right, the third attack, which does the spin attack and does double damage, is not really enough to fully justify it. We've been using, on most hits, Erasing Strike, the amount of damage, 1000 to 2000 damage, clearing the enemies on the map. I've been using now Cleave with Reversal, which brings us almost to 1000 damage with the multipliers that I have right now. But when we use our normal attack, it's just 150 to 300 damage when we do the spin. And it's very unrewarding. The feeling is not there for this skill. I am hoping that with a bit more mastery, it's going to feel better. Maybe I have made the build in the wrong way. Maybe I haven't focused the right skills for it. I am committed to continue with it towards the end, let's say, all the way towards the end, level 35, 36, whenever we finish this series. And so overall, I'm hoping, at this moment, I'm really hoping that we will be able to bring it up. As I'm starting to fight this primeval dragon and absolutely melted with the amount of damage that we are doing, I'm starting to get very excited. Think about how we started the episode, with a character build which felt very unsure. I was using the Warp app as sort of a crutch ability. I decided to change the lunge ability because I was using it once again exactly like I've used it on the Paladin. And I decided to replace it with Cleave and transform Cleave into a traversal skill. Right? So I've made all of these big changes about 20 levels in the game, and it started to feel really good. The only issues that I have at the moment is the first one, the Arrive ability, because it doesn't feel as good, it's not scaling up damage greatly, and I'm just using it while I'm waiting for all of the other abilities to be charged. And the second thing that I'm worried about is mostly mobs as I'm about to go further into the game. Poison damage, bleedings, necrotic damage, anything that has damage over time has been really bad. I've also unlocked a new skill here, and I'll get back to the topic after we read through it. A Nova that echoes from up to 8 enemies it reaches and applies Abyssal Decay. Enemies with Abyssal Decay take void damage over time for 6 seconds. If they take a hit, all the damage from the Abyssal Decay is dealt to them immediately. We're gonna try this ability out. I don't know much about it at the moment, but we're gonna see it in action. It's like sort of a debuff with damage over time, where you can actually increase the damage whenever you are hitting them. They apply those abyssal decays and they are being used whenever you hit them. Interesting ability overall. But getting back to what I was saying before we picked up this skill, I'm really fearing mobs. And the amount of bleeding, the amount of poison that I've been cleansing yesterday using the aura that we've had, and the amount of resistances that I've had, the 20% poison resistance, has been really useful. I was already feeling quite squishy yesterday with the Paladin, even with those being active. Today, I'm pretty much fearing going into the next areas with this two-handed warrior, and I'm just hoping for the best. But that is going to have to be it for today. We're gonna be returning in the next episode as we're pushing further into level 35. Upgrade once again, try to figure out how we can push this to the next level. Hope for the best for the Arrive ability, and if nothing else, we're gonna respec it, change it, and bring it to something that feels a bit more useful. With that in mind, hope you have enjoyed this episode. Sorry for the voiceover commentary, it's not really my strong suit, but I've done my best. Hope you have enjoyed it, as I said, and I wish you all to have a wonderful day.